Tord Reklev and Andrew Mahone. It is the story of two tournaments. Tord Reklev has dominated the entire weekend, dropping only a single game on his way to this grand finals. Andrew Mahone, on the other hand, was almost eliminated. He lost his very first round match and has had to run the table the entire day today to get to where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, two tales, two completely different backgrounds, and they both work their way here. Arguably, both of these players might have the biggest fan bases out of all of the players that were in our kickoff invitational, and now they're going to clash head-to-head.
Biggest fan bases, biggest match of the weekend. We have a versus video ready to play for these two final competitors.
Hi, my name is Tord Reklev and I am from Norway.
I'm Andrew Mahone and I'm a Pokemon trading card game player from Akron, Ohio.
Obviously, playing on the online client is different than playing in real life. For example, can't see the facial expressions of your opponent when you're playing.
It's still very intense. I feel the same, my heart's like pounding as I'm sitting here while I'm playing online, and while I'm thinking, I have a deck of cards here next to me and I'll pick it up and I'll kind of shuffle it just because it's that tactile sensation that I really love about playing the game.
The deck I am competing with today is Dragapult VMAX, using Dragapult's VMAX attack to spread my damage counters and taking multiple knockouts on the same turn, making for really solid strategy that you can make a lot of cool plays with, and you can come back basic any game with it.
I've been testing the Blacephalon Unbroken Bonds deck a lot. The deck I feel like is really strong, it's explosive, it can compete with almost everything that you might have to sit across from at a tournament, and that's the kind of deck that I like to bring to an event. I'm really excited to get to play Tord in this finals, and it's really exciting to have made it this far, especially after losing my first round.
I actually don't know what Andrew Mahone is playing yet. I haven't faced off against him or know about it. And I know he's a great player though, and also a really good content creator, so I have a lot of respect for him. I hope it will be a great match.
I expect some top-level gameplay. I expect it to be a deck that'll probably be pretty tough for me to beat. Best of luck, Tord, and I'm really looking forward to finally getting to play against you.
Best of luck, have fun, and I hope we have a really good match, and see you there.
Best of luck to both of these competitors. Tord Reklev against Andrew Mahone. I couldn't be more hyped for this, Kyle.
This is going to be an amazing finals, a great culmination to an amazing event that we've had thus far. Let's go ahead and check out the profiles of these players. We can go ahead and start off with none other than Tord Reklev playing his Dragapult VMAX deck. He's been showing how amazing it's been all weekend. And just look at these results that he has. Of course, 3-time international champion, top 4 at the World Championships. And he just loves those nice, consistent builds. Once again, we see him on that this weekend.
Absolutely. Tord Reklev, no stranger to the top of the tables, no stranger to being streamed on the most important matches of the tournament, because it seems like he's almost always in the finals. And more often than not, he is the champion. In this particular case, all he has to do is defeat Andrew Mahone one time. Andrew Mahone, on the other hand, has to defeat Tord Reklev 2 times in order to be crowned the champion, because Tord has not dropped a match this tournament. Now, Andrew Mahone has a ton of accomplishments of his own. He has been considered one of the top players in North America for many years, and he's absolutely just a dominant force in the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah, Andrew's one of those players that I run into at almost every event that I've gone to. He's always a top competitor. You know that he's going to be playing very well, and no surprise to see him here in this finals.
All right, Kyle, here we go. This is it, the final match, the grand finals between Tord Reklev and Andrew Mahone. Let's get it started.
To the table we go.
Tord Reklev on the bottom, Andrew Mahone on top. Here we go. This is the grand finals of the Pokemon Players Cup Invitational. Tord Reklev starting things off on the bottom of the screen, immediately starting with that Jirachi, about as good a Pokemon as you can have to start with. To go with that, he also happens to have Dragapult V. Just about the only thing missing from this hand is an energy card.
Well, on the other side, look at Andrew's hand.
Yeah, no kidding. Nothing. Look at that. Got Mew in the active spot. All he really has is a Blacephalon GX and an energy. Nothing else he can really do. Chooses to attach an energy onto Mew and passes the turn. That was it for Andrew Mahone's first turn. And now we start with Tord. Tord, remember, has that Jirachi, already has a Dragapult V. This is a great start for Tord and just an abysmal one for Andrew.
Yeah, now over on Tord's side, when you see a start like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that Andrew has nothing. He might just have Fire Energies and Welder, and that's his only real way of going from here. But I would be very happy to see Mew Energy pass as the opening in the finals of this tournament.
And remember, Tord only has to win one match to be crowned the champion. Andrew Mahone cannot afford to give up matches or games like this one. And unfortunately for him, it seems like he doesn't really have any options. Meanwhile, Tord just mulling over the just insane amount of options he really has. He has a Mysterious Treasure. He can play a supporter still. And remember, he still has his Stellar Wish Jirachi to find him additional cards.
Right. Now, of course, he has that bailout button in the Professor's Research in case he doesn't find an energy here with Stellar Wish. He has cards like Energy Spinner that could help him out and really help him find that. Perhaps even Acrobike could help him draw into that without having to lose his Dragapult VMAX along with that supporter. But, of course, sometimes you just got to press the button. That energy is so crucial to putting on the pressure early.
And Tord still mulling over his options. Still hasn't used Stellar Wish. Choosing to use Galarian Zigzagoon first and actually targeting the Blacephalon GX on the bench. Seems like he's going to be going for a Professor's Research before Stellar Wishing.
Yeah, that's completely fine here. He plays huge counts of VMAX, so losing this isn't bad. And he does find that energy.
Indeed, he does. And now that you know what 7-card hand you have to look at, you can weigh over your options. Fortunately for him, doesn't seem to be many of them, as all he can really take is a reset stamp at the beginning of the game. About as bad as a card as you can find there. You definitely don't want to be shuffling in.
That is the worst card.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially if he knew what Andrew's hand consists of.
Yeah, I mean, as great as a player as Tord is, he probably has some sort of idea what's going on here. Gonna go ahead and take that quick knockout on the Mew. Already put some damage onto the Blacephalon as well. We see with the Zigzagoon and the Shrine of Punishment, he's got a ton of damage lined up for the following turn. Wow. And Andrew found nothing off the top.
Unbelievable. All
he's
he
gonna
can
have
do
to
is
burst for a prize card.
Yeah. Just burst GX. Oh, how painful is that?
He throws away a Jirachi.
That's about as bad a sequence as I've ever seen in a grand finals before. And now it's back on Tord. Tord, at this point, knows the good news.
The Dragapult VMAX does 130 damage here. And then if you include the fact that the Galarian Zigzagoon comes down into play, Scoop Up Net along with Shrine of Punishment, you're doing a lot of damage. I think the numbers line up for a knockout here.
Well, you're looking at 130, 140 with the Shrine. That's 150, 160 because of 20 already on it. So you still need 20 more.
Can't you just Zigzagoon and Scoop Up Net and Zigzagoon? You know what?
Yes.
I don't think it mattered.
You could have, but you didn't. It didn't matter. Andrew Mahone hits that concede button. That is game one. That fast. Kyle, it looks like... Wow. I haven't even gotten warmed up. My seat still feels a little cold. And Tord is one win away, literally one game win away from winning the entire tournament, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, what an explosive start. That's not really what Tord is going for. He goes for that nice, steady, consistent approach, hit for 130 and try to wear you down with the damage counters. But when Mahone's sitting there with 3 Scoop Up Net, you go for it.
Well, that's game one. Remember, Andrew Mahone now has to win 2 consecutive games in a row just to take this to a deciding match. Talk about having your back against the wall. Now, Tord Reklev does start with Galarian Zigzagoon, and Andrew, at the bare minimum, has... I didn't see his starting Pokemon, but I do see a Blacephalon in hand, so he's got to be feeling pretty good. Oh, it looks like it's that Mew again. Jirachi comes fashionably late.
Mew's been waiting for a little bit of game to play, and we do see now that he did find that Jirachi. That's going to help him out a good bit here.
Yeah, the fashionably late Jirachi does come down to play, though. And now Fiery Flint discards 2 fires, kind of thinning the deck out a tiny bit. Remember, Andrew's hand, despite having a quick ball, really doesn't have too much gas in it yet. So you really want to see a nice Stellar Wish here. I don't know how much you want to quick ball away a 5 energy hand for a Dedenne, though it looks like there is a chance of that. It looks like he's going for Zacian instead. So at this point, we are putting a little bit of pressure on your on the top of your deck, whether it be through Stellar Wish or Zacian's ability.
Yeah, I really like this start from Andrew. He does have. I think he should take the Fiery Flint here, but he wants to go with the safer approach. Now, if the Zacian does find him the Welder off the top here, then he feels like he's in a phenomenal spot. Heat Factory is a great card for him as well, so looks like he's lined up, if that Welder comes in, to have a fairly good second turn here, much better than the opening game we had.
Still needs that Welder, though, and in the meantime, Tord now gets his second turn of the game.
Yeah, and he needs a Pokemon. He needs to attach to a Dragapult, and that does not look like it right now. But wow, right off the Marnie, you see the Quick Ball along with the energy, so he should be set to at least get something going this game.
He does have that. He does have an energy attachment on his first turn, which is about as good as you can ask for. He goes for a Stellar Wish before using his Quick Ball. Stellar Wish is going to find a Professor's Research, so that's pretty nice as well. Shrine of Punishment, also an option, and of course, the second Quick Ball. But that Professor's Research seems to just be guaranteeing a nice bit of consistency here for Tord. And we know Tord loves consistency.
Yeah, he's the king of it, and this is why his deck is just lined up to do things like this. He can go ahead and use that Quick Ball, find that Dragapult, attach the energy, and then next turn he's got the Professor's Research lined up, and he's well on his way to getting that 130 max Phantom out.
I was wondering what card he was going to discard for that Quick Ball. It seems like pretty much all of these discards were going to be at least a little bit painful. Chooses to get rid of that Scoop Up Net to find the Dragapult. Despite it being painful, of course, still the best option. Still a very important find here is that Dragapult V.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Shrine of Punishment for a second, but Tord is so great at waiting for the right opportunity to drop that counter stadium. We saw him do that earlier in the tournament, and if he's able to counter something like a Heat Factory at the right moment, then you think he has to hold on to it, at least for that opportunity.
You see Tord still looking over his deck, trying to see what's prized. Decides to now find that Dragapult, and no doubt going to be attaching an energy. Perhaps passing after this.
Yeah, I think we're pretty content with this turn. This worked out fairly well. He did everything he wanted to do, and now he just waits for Mahone to make a move. And Tord's deck is very good at countering what Blacephalon does. He comes up, takes knockouts exactly on the Blacephalon, gets to spread a little damage along the way, and you don't really want to take the first step unless you have to.
As the Welder finds the energy retrieval, does Andrew. So very important cards here to find.
Yeah, off of that Marnie, we didn't know if he was going to be able to come up with a hand that could really compete against Tord's deck, but ended up doing okay. I'm sure he's wishing that Welder gave him a little better of a hand than this, though.
Yeah, okay, but not quite there yet. Interesting to see if maybe he promotes another Jirachi. Looks like, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Chooses to Scoop Up Net the Mew.
Yep, doesn't want to give away those prizes. He knows just a Scoop Up Net for the Galarian Zigzagoon along with 5 damage would take the knockout there.
And now we do see the Fire Crystal. Tiny bit late. Looks like we may just see another very slow turn out of Andrew. At the bare minimum, he has now attached a third energy onto the Blacephalon. And that is the end of the turn. That's an Intrepid Sword. Andrew's deck seems to be a lot better positioned for the slower starts than most other Blacephalons.
Yeah, this is honestly a fair turn for Andrew. He just needs to take his time right now, make sure that when this Dragapult V or potentially Dragapult V Max does come into play, that he'll be able to just go take this huge knockout, deal potentially 350 damage in a turn. If he can do that, then he's in a fairly good spot. But going and committing everything that you have to knocking out this Jirachi doesn't really line up. He can take a knockout here, walks right into a Dragapult VMAX, and then he feels pretty terrible about what he just did, committing all those resources to a cheap, easy knockout for Tord. And now looking over on Tord's side, he's got that energy spinner, so he's going to grab himself another energy card, just going for that nice, fair, simple approach here. And he's got everything that he really needs right now. Besides the switching effect right now, so he's going to need a little bit of help from his pal Jirachi. Using that mysterious treasure now, going to go ahead and discard that quick ball and just thin one more Pokemon out of the deck. Get himself that Dragapult VMAX, and now it's really up to Jirachi if he can find himself a Scoop Up Net or an escape board. It does find that there for himself now, so he's going to have access to taking the knockout here. Just has to justify it in his own head if it's really the play for himself right now, because he could be walking into a huge Blacephalon play.
Oh, man. Now, while you're right, like, the only other option really is to wait until next turn and hope to boss his orders your opponent. Get rid of the Blacephalon, but then you just give your opponent another turn to start setting up. Getting rid of the Jirachi may be the right play. At the same time, it seems like Tord is potentially happy. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of disruption that he can find there for the following turn.
Yeah, this is the kind of approach that I like from Tord. He's going to wait until he has another energy on the board, so that if the Dragapult VMAX does get knocked out, he has the answer. He could use the second Dragapult VMAX along with a combination with Reset Stamp or Marnie, put his opponent on a low hand, and then start taking the knockouts. So instead of walking into a huge potential game-winning play from Mahone, just take that nice steady approach. If your opponent wants to knock out this Jirachi, it's probably not the best play.
Now, here's where we start doing the math. 320 hit points means you need to discard 7 energies in order to be able to get a knockout. Now, Fireball Circus requires 3 energies. That's already 10 energies total. If you start to set up a second Pokemon, then all of a sudden you start really putting a lot of pressure on yourself. I mean, granted, 7 energies is already hard to find, but when you have 3 in play and then you start powering up another Pokemon, you really make it difficult for you to be able to get a knockout. So can Andrew even afford to start setting up a second Blacephalon? It seems like he says no, and now instead chooses to power up with Cramorant. Says, all right, you're putting me in a position where I can't really attack you with Blacephalon. That's all right. What if I attack you with Cramorant instead?
Yeah, this is a good spot from Andrew. We've seen this work to the success of many, where they just go ahead and use Cramorant, snipe, put 160 damage onto the Dragapult, start to soften it up so that you aren't required to have that much to take down this Pokemon. And if you don't ask that much of your deck after getting reset stamped, then you're probably going to find 3 or 4 energies to take a knockout.
You've got to be feeling really good about your Marnie in hand after seeing Andrew's sequence of plays here if you're Tord. Andrew has spent a lot of resources gathering a large hand this turn, and Marnie is just going to shuffle all of them away. So
yeah, this is where Tord waiting feels like a pretty good move for him. But Andrew made the right line. This is what he needs to do. He needs to put pressure on without knocking out Jirachi, because that just walks into disaster.
And now that means there's only 160 hit points remaining on that Dragapult VMAX. That's achievable. You can do that with even after a Marnie if you're Andrew.
If this Cramorant does take one more shot at it, not being knocked out this turn, as that's pretty much impossible from Tord's deck, then you do also have the opportunity to snipe it one more time. You can remove it from the board that way, and then just one Blacephalon connection on another Dragapult VMAX ends the game.
Lots of options available for Andrew. It seems like Andrew is maneuvering through this matchup very well, but so is Tord. Tord is making some very cautious plays that are just extending the game, and we're going to see how powerful that Marnie's going to be against Andrew. It really is going to come down to a 4-card hand for Andrew. Will Andrew be able to respond through a welder? If he is, then this could be Andrew's game to lose. This is a big welder, or I'm sorry, a big Marnie Will we get a 4-card welder hand from Andrew? So far, no.
And he does find the way to switch out of the active spot if he wanted to get a little bit aggressive here. Seems like the right line. Also did have multiple scoop up net, but occasionally getting to use that escape board is better. But of course, he has a Jirachi with an escape board on the bench, so he can just go ahead, look at one more free card here, and then go ahead and start attacking into the Cramorant V.
All right, so if you're Andrew, a Fire Crystal will give you a knockout with a Blacephalon, right? But you still need a combination of cards to get a knockout with Cramorant.
Yeah, Cramorant requires the welder, and he's going to need 4 energies to knock out the Dragapult VMAX.
With Blacephalon, correct?
Yes.
All right. Tord. Again, just a phenomenal play with that Marnie. Putting pressure right back on Andrew, especially after Andrew had just a huge turn last turn, just setting up his hand phenomenally. The only thing that really could have messed with Andrew was going to be some sort of hand disruption, and that's exactly what Marnie is. And now we see the attack, Max Phantom out of Tord Reklev, 130 damage onto that Cramorant V, and now spreading 50 damage across the board, and actually all going towards Jirachi.
Yeah, this is something when you see Michael Pramawat's deck did not have the scoop up net, and Andrews does play scoop up. And you see, generally you want to only spread a little bit of damage onto the Jirachi when you know scoop up net could come. But he feels pretty safe that Andrew's not going to commit those kind of resources with only a 4-card hand. It's hard for him to have it in hand, and if you do scoop up a Jirachi right now, what are you really accomplishing?
I don't know what you can accomplish, period, with Andrew's hand right now. There's
yeah, that's pretty much where we're at right now. It looks like Andrew, if he doesn't find anything soon, he's going to be ending the turn with Intrepid Sword or potentially even Cramorant's first attack to look for some cards. This is not good.
If there's a Dedenne left in the deck, that may very well be the option that you go for. It's not an option that excites you.
It's a dangerous line. We've seen how often Tord is able to knock out Dedennes by way of using Shrine of Punishment in combination with the extra damage counters that he drops into play. It feels like Dedenne always falls at the right time for Tord to take a win.
It really does, but I don't know what kind of option Andrew has available to him otherwise. The only other option really is to just use Intrepid Sword. I don't know.
At this point, I think you need to take this knockout. This needs to happen. Dedenne needs to find you everything that you want off of this. Could potentially use Ordinary Rod if he wants to get some energies into the deck to find, but I don't even know if he needs to. It just depends on what he's got going on in his discard pile. Hasn't really had to do any big damage yet, so don't expect too many fire energies in there.
You can see Andrew's kind of second-guessing himself. Actually chooses not to play the Ordinary Rod. Fire Crystal and Fiery Flint, so we do have enough energy to knock out the Dragapult VMAX, but you could see Andrew kind of just weighing over his options. None of them felt great to him, and that's for a good reason. This is just a very uncomfortable
weird
spot.
He hit so many good cards that he didn't know what to use Fiery Flint on. So now he does look and he sees, oh, well, I got a Tapu Fini and maybe even this Quick Ball that I could get rid of potentially. So that works out pretty well.
Yes, it does. Fiery Flint now. Definitely getting rid of the Tapu Fini, I think.
I don't need you. And yeah, the fire energy is also a great discard here. But does only have 3 fire energies from the Fiery Flint. So he will have to use the Fire Crystal, which is a little more awkward than he needs to.
Yeah, he's valuing that Quick Ball pretty highly.
Yeah. And honestly, it might be a fairly useful card. It could find Oricorio if he doesn't have the way to get this return knockout. So I don't disagree with the play at all.
Dragapult VMAX goes down. And yes, you had to spend a couple of turns to knock it out. But look at the prizes that come down.
He found 7 energies.
That is just literally energy. That is how that goes when you're Andrew Mahone and you were playing Blacephalon in that spot. Now, Tord Reklev has his first Dragapult VMAX knocked out. knows that if his opponent can knock out one more Dragapult VMAX, this game will be over.
And this is where
Has
you
to
have
play
to
with that
believe in
accordingly.
what your deck does. You have a lot of hit points. You have one very unique strategy that you're supposed to go for, and he's got that reset stamp. He's got his scoop up nets. He's gonna try to set up a nice big swing turn for himself here.
This is where you believe in the reset stamp above all else. That reset stamp is just the most powerful card against Blacephalon. We've seen that time and time again for many months now, as Blacephalon just wants to avoid getting reset stamped. It's so hard to get knockouts when your hand is slow with the Blacephalon deck. But with Intrepid Sword and with the Jirachi still in play, well, Jirachi may not be in play much longer, though.
This is interesting because Tord had two avenues that he could go down. He could set up the Cramorant to be potentially knocked out by the Dragapult VMAX, or he could go for the Jirachi knockout here. I don't really know what the price card really does for you right now, but maybe that is something that he wants to go for. But his main reason is he wants to make sure that after he takes a knockout here, he wants Andrew to not have a Jirachi to come into on the following turn. So expect at least one damage counter to land on that Jirachi, and he's just going to hope that Andrew finds 3 cards that get him nowhere.
Yes, that Jirachi is not going to be in play. There's no way it's going to be in play, right? If you're Tord and you can avoid that, because your entire goal right now is to reset stamp your opponent into an unplayable hand. And if you look at Andrew's new hand, it's just Jirachi, Switch, and Fire Energy. This does not equal a knockout at all if you're in Andrew's shoes.
Yeah, this is pretty awkward for Andrew. He needs a lot of cards to get going. This is where he'd love to have the Oricorio, but he understands that that's also a risk to play down. So he wanted to have that quick ball as a return, and now he doesn't have that option. And over on the other side, does Tord have access to another Zigzagoon? Because he could make a 4-prize turn out of this. Potentially. Like no, I think he'd be one damage off.
Yeah, 1 damage off, but I think you're content to have the turn you're about to have.
Yeah, let's not get greedy. Let's not go to Jirachi and feel pretty good.
Yeah.
No reason to get wild here.
I assume the first can is going to be going straight onto that Jirachi, and there it is.
Yeah,
that's going to mean a knockout onto Jirachi and Blacephalon, and then Cramorant plus Dedenne are going to be very close to being knocked out themselves.
Yeah, that's a beautiful setup by Tord. He knows now the boss's orders is pretty much game ending here. The damage will compile onto the Dedenne, and then the Cramorant is available to be knocked out by the end damage of the Max Phantom. So boss's orders could just seal Andrew's fate in this tournament.
Switches the Blacephalon.
Stellar Wish needs to be big here.
Promotes Jirachi.
Finds Heat Factory and Welder. This is a tough call.
Yeah, it really is.
He's thinking to himself, well, if I grab Heat Factory, maybe then I can draw into a Welder. That draws me more cards. It's more likely that I'm going to find... He could find Welder a lot more easily than Heat Factory because Heat Factory is just 1 card. And he does. He finds Oricorio too.
Yeah, getting rid of the Shrine of Punishment also very important there.
Yes, that is also... Yeah, actually, I think Shrine of Punishment's done its damage. It got Dedenne up to knockout potential with Max Phantom, so maybe not as important, but still helpful.
Look at all the cards that Andrew's going to be drawing, though. That was Heat Factory into Welder into Oricorio. We couldn't even see it in with an Intrepid Sword.
He doesn't have a way to retreat.
Yeah, just missing the way to retreat. Has the access to 7
He was
energy.
So close.
Oh, man, you got to feel bad for him. Look at that. Just switch, quick ball, energy retrieval left. Switch is still in the deck. He could have drawn into it, but did not. It seems like you are now on the Dodge Boss's Orders plan. Boss's Orders means 4 prizes for Tord and the tournament. Does Tord have the Boss's Orders? He does have boss's orders, Kyle. Boss's orders into the Dedenne, and then going to use Max Phantom to knock out both Dedenne and Cramorant. That is going to be 4 prizes taken in 1 turn by Tord Reklev, and that does mean that Tord Reklev is your Pokemon Players' Cup Invitational Champion.
Congratulations to Tord Reklev, once again proving his dominance in an amazing field of players, taking down Andrew Mahone 2-0 in the grand finals of our tournament. Amazing performance with a deck that we honestly haven't seen too much of. It's a brand new card, and he just maybe he just showed us the way to build this deck.
Wow, Dragapult VMAX, the real deal. Tord Reklev, we've already known he's the real deal, but just an incredible showing, incredible accomplishment by Tord, playing against 7 other phenomenal players and standing above all others, not dropping a single match this tournament.
Yeah, it was a crazy performance. Very well done. He played against all sorts of decks to get to this spot. He played against Pikarom. He played against Blacephalon. He played against the mirror match. He went through everybody, and all the accomplishments that those players had ends up our champion. An amazing performance.
Wow. So congratulations once again to Tord Reklev. Just can't say enough great things about him. If there's ever a more deserving champion, I'd like to see it, because Tord Reklev just dominated the field. And of course, we now have an interview with our champion, Tord Reklev. I'd like to welcome the first ever Pokemon Players Cup Invitational Champion, Tord Reklev. Congratulations, Tord, on your near unparalleled dominant run throughout the weekend, losing only a single game on your way to victory.
Thank you so much. It feels absolutely amazing, as always.
You know, Tord, it was no surprise to see you invited. Of course, you were maybe the most recognizable competitive Pokemon player in the history of the game. You've had just an absolutely dominant run ever since the international championships started happening. So, you know, of course, maybe I'd say the majority of Pokemon fans and players around the world consider you to be the best player in the world. Do you feel a lot of pressure when you hear people start referring to you as the best player in the world?
Honestly, I do. I do feel a lot of pressure with that reputation on me. And it does actually still make me nervous attending events. Even this online event where I could play from the comfort of my own home, I was still nervous playing because I knew a lot of people were expecting a lot out of me, and a lot of people were almost expecting me to win. So it's kind of hard, but whenever I pull through and actually get there anyway, it feels really, really good to me. It's a great relief, and I'm of course happy with every victory I get.
So what was the turning point when you feel like you just understood the game at the highest level? When, you know, everything you knew before maybe was out the window and you realized that you could see the game in a different perspective?
It's a process, of course, but I think it's actually a couple years ago where I started to notice that you could do a lot of unconventional plays that are still not considered to be optimal or like the normal way to play. Say you can pass turns in games to get a better board position, when in most players' eyes, passing a turn would just make you closer to losing, or just be the wrong way to play, right? But sometimes you can do plays that just makes your overall win condition closer long term.
Thanks, Tord. You know, I think that one of the main features when it comes to talking about you and understanding, you know, the kind of process that you have when it comes to the game is when we start talking about your preparation. I think that you may have the most legendary preparation of all time. It's no surprise and no secret that you've claimed that you've, you know, played countless hours of Pokemon leading up to events in the past. Has this changed at all in recent times, Tord?
Well, actually, not too much. I still play a lot of Pokemon. I do really love the game, and I enjoy playing, I enjoy testing. And it's it does take a lot of time to try to find the perfect 60, right? And find the perfect list, the perfect meta call for every event. It's always adapting and changing. We get new cards. So it's always something to do, right? I always have something to test for, new matchups, new little techs, new little cute plays. So it's always a process that's always adapting and changing. And yeah, I don't feel like it gets stale either. So because it's always something new, right?
Right. And it's interesting that you mentioned a lot of like little text, because that's true. You do seem to play a lot of like interesting cards that most people honestly don't play in their list. But at the same time, you seem to play maybe the most consistent deck list that there are at the events. I think that like perhaps the most streamlined version of the deck comes out of you in all likelihood. What's your main reason for foregoing the other cards that other players might otherwise play and playing the list that you do?
So in the end, it always comes down to the boring thing, consistency, right? How often can your deck do what it's supposed to do? And if you have a lot of tricks, a lot of win conditions, power cards, I like to call them, those won't help you if you can't execute your main game plan in the first place. So like you're trying to put in a lot of cards that should give you more advantages after you execute your game plan in the first place, right? But say if your game plan executes a round or two too late, because you have all these small power cards, then the result of that, like the total sum of it, means that your deck isn't as strong, even if you have more powerful cards, basically. It's a really weird way to look at it, but it's basically what it boils down to. So I like to have my decks really streamlined. So usually they're not that powerful, and a lot of players often look at them as kind of weak, but they are weak, but they're purposely weak. I want them weak because I want them to do the same thing every game, right? And if you do some testing and then you play against someone with a more powerful list, but they happen to draw really well a couple games against you, then you immediately conclude, his list is just weaker than this, right? This is more powerful. But long term, you play hundreds more games and you realize that, actually we should just play it as straight as possible, because if we miss a turn, these few tech cards won't really change too much, right?
Right. Thanks, Tord. That's actually really enlightening. And that actually leads me to the question about the Dragapult VMAX deck that you chose to play this weekend. This is a brand new deck. Obviously, it's the very first opportunity that you have to play it at a professional Pokemon event. What was the reason for playing Dragapult VMAX over, say, something like Pikachu and Zekrom or any of the other tried and tested decks?
So Dragapult VMAX is actually really cool because you can control the game in a whole different way than normally, because you have that 5 extra put damage, right? It doesn't look like too much, but it actually adds up because you can put it anywhere and it doesn't really get blocked by too much right now. And that means you can put all your damage on your opponent's field as you want it. So you can control when you draw your prizes, most likely. So you don't have to draw them too early or too late. You can take them at the right moments. So you can play around Reset Stamp, Marnies, stuff like that, by purposely not taking knockouts, which is really cool. And it's also very cost effective. You get a lot of value out of very few resources. You need a 1/1 line Pokemon and 2 energies, and you can start dishing out a lot of damage. And you also have a lot of HP, and the weakness is one of the best in the format right now. I actually just wrote an article for Pokemon.com about Dragapult VMAX. So I had exploring a lot of options and looking at a lot of things. So I really wanted to try it out in tournament setting, and it all worked out as I had hoped for. So it was really great feeling about that.
I'd say it worked out. This was a very unique setting. This is the very first online event ever. And of course, you ended up winning it. Did your preparation change at all because of this setting?
I mean, it's basically the same. I live in a small town in Norway. So usually my testing comes from PCGO in the first place. So my testing process was basically the same thing. I was testing online. and doing all my research online and stuff like that. But this time I just, instead of traveling, I was playing the tournament online. So it was just kind of different, but in reality, it was basically the same. You can't shuffle your own cards, but it doesn't really matter too much. And yeah, I enjoy playing online, so didn't really hinder me too.
Thank you, Tord. How did it feel to win that final match and realize that you were crowned the Invitational champion?
I mean, it was kind of a stacked tournament, right? A lot of great players, and only the winner walked away from that tournament with a reward, right? Now I'm the only player so far to be invited to the top 16 tournament of the Players Cup, right? So that feels amazing. So I was a lot of pressure in the final, I felt, because if I were to lose it, I would basically don't get anything like prize-wise, but still the honor of playing with all these amazing people, and I already had a lot of great games. So I guess I couldn't say I would walk away with nothing, but you know what I mean. So yeah, basically.
Thanks, Tord. You've accomplished almost everything in the Pokemon trading card game at this point. I gotta ask, what kind of long-term goals do you have left in your Pokemon career?
That's a pretty good question. I'm not sure. Basically, I will just continue playing until I find that the game is not fun anymore. As long as I enjoy playing, I will continue to test for tournaments and participate and continue to have a lot of fun. I also have a lot of friends in the community that I enjoy hanging out with at events. So basically all the standard stuff. And yeah, I mean, tournament-wise, I guess I would really like to win Worlds. But I mean, that's basically an unrealistic goal. We only have one of those a year, and it's the most stacked tournament of the year as well, of course. So chances are I won't ever get there, but that won't stop me from trying, right? So I'll definitely try. Maybe we get there someday.
Well, thank you, Tord, and congratulations.